Hi, I'm Asterales Sedai of the Yellow Archer. Here is a recap for non-book readers of Season 1, Episode 4, The Dragon Reborn of The Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. If you're like me and can't get enough positive Wheel of Time content in your life, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Spoiler warning, I will be discussing characters and events up to Episode 4, but nothing that happens differently or later in the books. This is safe as long as you've seen Episode 4. Let's go! It's flashback time again, this time to the nation of Ghealdan. There's a palace on a hilltop and it's burning. 2 guards are trying to get the king to safety, but they are being followed by a lone man. It's the captured man from the end of the last episode. They hurl his spears at him, but he deflects them with the slightest curl of his hand by his side. We see the same sort of channeling weaves Moraine used, but these have an oily black coating. At the top of the ramparts, the king has a shoulder injury and knows he is cornered. He tells the man behind him he'll never have the crown, but the man replies in disdain. What does a crown mean to the Dragon Reborn? This guy knows the prophecies, and says that the dragon has just as good a chance of saving the world as breaking it. Problem is, it looks like the man is not just hearing the king in front of him, but also other voices telling him what to do. They call him by name, Loghain. The king sees Loghain responding to something that's not there, and comes to the conclusion that he's gone mad already. He stabs with his dagger in desperation, but without lifting a finger or even flinching, Loghain simply channels the dagger to a stop and turns it back towards the king. The dagger is forced out of his hand, and the king is made to kneel before him. The voices coalesce into humanoid shapes, whispering paranoid thoughts in the man's ears, implying that he should kill the king. Instead, we see the weaves that were holding him down disappear, and the king's wound miraculously heal. Loghain gets down to offer the king, an enemy who had just tried to kill him, to follow him instead, and even offers him his dagger back. Loghain wants to be different from the last dragon, to bind the world instead of break it. In the current timeline, at the Aes Sedai camp, Green Sisters are walking around the grounds, paired with a man or even 2. The Red Sisters stand with each other only, no men here, and look up as one to something that's above the camp. Lan looks over his shoulder to see that it's Nynaeve, observing from the outskirts. Moraine is lying in a green tent, and she's finally able to receive Aes Sedai healing for her wound from a green sister, Karine Sedai. It's not a complete healing though, and there's some scar tissue left behind. She questions Karine on her tiredness, and she tells Moraine that it's the false dragon that's used up her strength. Only 3 from all the Aes Sedai in the camp are strong enough to shield him, that is, stop him from channeling and using the one power, and that even then it takes 2 of them at a time. Karine, Liandrin, and Alanna Sedai have been taking turns. Karine takes Moraine to meet Loghain. Turns out the group had captured him by sneaking into his camp at night and shielding him while he slept. A small lightning show had scattered his followers, and that's a clever use to do what was needed without breaking the 3 oaths. Liandrin is keen to fast-track his punishment, but Karine says they must obey the Amyrlin seat. This is the leader of their organisation. Moraine offers to step in and help with the shielding, and Liandrin quips that this is typical Moraine. Moraine channels the weave, and it settles like a net over the man. When Liandrin releases her shield, Moraine is visibly strained with the sheer force of his strength. Liandrin reminds her, that's only half. Outside the cave, Lan and another warder are practicing combat moves whilst catching up on what's been going on. The other warder mentions that the Amyrlin seat has threatened to bring them back to the White Tower personally. Maybe not everyone is on board with Moraine's mission. Karine comes back to the camp, and Lan's practice partner joins her side. This must be her warder. Back in their tent, they joke that Moraine and Lan hardly talk, and that would make for amusingly silent meals. Her warder tells her that there are rumours of Red Sisters gentling men without a trial, but Karine says that that won't be happening to Loghain. It's the first time we've heard the term for his punishment, gentling. While the travelling people camp is packing up, Perrin admits to Egwene that he doesn't trust them. The young tinker, Aram, invites them to travel with them and acknowledges them as villagers from near the Mountains of Mist. While they deny it, Aram is just like Tom and recognises them from their accent and dress. When we catch back up with Mat and Rand, it seems that Tom's idea of getting away fast was by stealing horses for the boys. He spots a farm up ahead where they might be able to shelter. Mat is having trouble with his horse, which he blames on Tom. Meanwhile, Rand's suspicion of Moraine has transferred right over to Tom. He questions Mat. What if he killed the Dark Friend, only to make them trust him? Matt jokes that maybe there's hope for Rand after all, if he can come up with something like that. Matt wonders about something though. The Dark Friend mentioned 5 candidates for the Dragon Reborn. Himself, Rand, Egwene, and Perrin. So who's the 5th? We cut back to Logain. He's sitting with his eyes closed in the cage, almost like he's meditating, and definitely not like a captured man. Moraine admits that it's one thing to know that women can't see a man's weaves, but another thing altogether to experience it. On Moraine's probing, Alana admits that she's partly there to get information out of Moraine, but only after a couple of days, when she's less suspicious. Moraine laughs that she could have been a blue with that sort of intrigue. Alana scoffs that she could never limit herself to just one water. She tells Moraine that she joined the Greens thinking they were heroic, the Battle-Aja, warriors dedicated to fighting the Dark One at the last battle. She admits she never thought it would be in her lifetime though. She declares that real or false, Logain is the strongest channeler she's ever seen. It's a sign the end of the age is here. She confesses to Moraine that she's worried. What if he's supposed to help them in the last battle, but he's already been gentled? As they're pondering this thought, Logain pushes out against his shield. In synchrony, they push back and the shield settles back into him. He doesn't even open his eyes in acknowledgement of anything that's just happened. Outside, Liandrin approaches Nynaeve, who still hasn't joined the camp, but is eating and watching from above. Nynaeve calls her out immediately, assuming she wants something from her, as Aes Sedai always do. She agrees that if Liandrin answers her questions, she might just help her back. Tom, Rand and Matt have reached the farm and plan to sneak into the barn overnight to sleep. Matt's still having trouble with his horse. The farmer's unhappy to find them on his property and confronts them with his bow drawn. He is not impressed with either Matt nor Tom's explanations, but Rand speaks up and manages to defuse the situation. They're offered a place for the night, if they muck out the stables. Liandrin is doing her best to sweet-talk Nynaeve. She explains that the Reds protect the world from those who would misuse the One Power, including other Aes Sedai. Lan joins them, and Liandrin leaves almost immediately, but not before offering Nynaeve a place at the Reds' tent. Lan promises Nynaeve that once they reach the White Tower, they will help her find her friends if they're not already there. He also offers her a place by the water fire, and even cracks a joke, saying, "If you promise not to shove anyone into it." The Tinker camp is on the move, a bit further north than usual, to avoid the soldiers down south. Perrin and Egwene learn about the Way of the Leaf philosophy these people follow. They shun all violence and weapons. Egwene is astounded. How would they defend themselves if attacked? And Perrin adds, even if you are killed? Isla, the Tinker Elder, asks him if he's ever picked up a weapon, and lists a few before spotting Perrin's reaction when she said axe. She rubs further salt into the wound by asking him, has your life become better or worse since you picked up that axe? Rand and Matt are mucking out the stables, whilst Tom is conveniently staying aside, just in case he needs to perform. Matt is unwell and goes aside to vomit. The blackness he vomits out moves and has whispering voices. We see more of the blackness on Matt's chin, and it rushes into his mouth. He's startled by a young girl who offers him a loaf of bread. He gets down to the little girl's level to speak to her, and his entire demeanour changes. He tells her that she reminds him of his little sisters, and she offers him her doll, named Birgitta, to give to them. This doll has a long blonde braid, and she tells him that Birgitta protects her while everyone is asleep. When Matt is away, Tom has the chance to speak to Rand about his concerns. Matt has the exact same symptoms he once saw in his nephew, Owen. These include a changed paranoid personality and animals reacting around him. These are the early signs of male channeling, which was finally revealed when his nephew threw a rock without using his hands. Rand is stunned and in denial. Tom says that this is very serious, because in the last stage, the Dark One corrupted the One Power, so that unlike women, men can't use it without going mad. Rand also learns that the Red Aes Sedai found Tom's nephew when he was away and gentled him. So we finally learn what gentling means. This is the term for what Liandrin wants to do to the captured Logain. Gentling, unlike shielding, is to cut a man from the One Power permanently so that he can never channel. Rand doesn't think this sounds too bad, until Tom tells him that permanently taking the power from someone who can channel is a fate worse than death. His nephew took his own life only a few weeks on from his gentling. Tom offers to help keep Rand safe, and makes sure Matt stays away from any Red Aes Sedai so he doesn't suffer the same fate. He tells Rand that nothing is more dangerous than a man who knows the past. In the Aes Sedai camp, Moraine and Carini are visibly strained from the task of shielding Logain. Outside, Nynaeve has taken up Lan's offer to join the water campfire and is being entertained by tales of his past mishaps. She doesn't understand why they choose to serve the Aes Sedai, but Carini's water tells her that there is no closer bond in the world and explains that Aes Sedai means servants of all. It is their honour to be with the ones that are serving the world. There are some knowing looks and nods as the warders make their excuses and retire to their tents with their Aes Sedai. Nynaeve is shocked when she sees Alana call to retire with both her warders. Lan retires as well, and Nynaeve looks even more alarmed at what this might mean if he's joining Moraine in her tent. It's not what Nynaeve imagines, though. Moraine and Lan are simply sitting on the edge of the bed discussing business. Their complete focus on their original quest hasn't changed, and they're still sorting their Dragon Reborn candidates. They work out that even the Dark One may not know who the Dragon Reborn is, and Moraine is kicking herself for losing her 4 main candidates after 20 years of searching. Lan corrects her, saying that he lost them, but Moraine insists on sharing the blame and grasps his hand in solidarity. Lan jokes that he shouldn't have had a drink, as this makes Moraine emotional. The bond makes it as though Moraine herself was drinking. It's all fun and dancing at the Tinker camp. Egwene is taking up everything the travelling people are offering, including dancing with Aram. Perrin watches from the sidelines and eventually moves off to busy himself fixing up a wagon wheel. Egwene asks about the song they keep talking about, and Aram tells her it's something from before the last breaking, that if found again will miraculously bring peace and harmony back to the world. He thinks it's just a silly tale. The Tinker Elder explains to Perrin why she follows the Way of the Leaf. It is her way to fight back against the violence of the world. Even though her own daughter died to bandits in a senseless killing, her revenge is peace for violence and life for death. Egwene is looking up at the stars, and even Aram can tell she's thinking of someone special. Someone she's lost, maybe? Egwene replies no confidently, and that she would know if she had. Rand is still important to her. Aram tells her that some Tinkers leave to live in the world, and he frowns in judgment as he says that some even take up weapons. At the farm, Rand offers Matt his support in a genuine attempt at an "Are you okay?" speech. He assures Matt that he'll always be there for him. Rand leans over to blow out a flame, and we cut to darkness. In the very next scene, Rand is clearly dreaming. He's walking through a ruined village, just like the Two Rivers. Perrin is attacking some bodies on the ground with his hammer, and Matt walks past in a daze with a bloody red hand. Egwene calls out to Rand, but is grabbed from behind in a jump scare by the shadowy figure with glowing eyes. He wakes in fright, and Tom comforts him before they both realize that Matt is gone. They run to the farmhouse to a scene of total horror. Both farmers have been murdered, along with their son. There's blood on the floor and walls. Disturbingly, Matt is simply standing in the room. He's staring up at the upper floor, and the blackness is running into his mouth again. Matt points with his Shadala Goth dagger. It doesn't have blood on it, and he says ominously, "I see you." A Fade steps out of the shadows above them, and Tom springs into action, throwing a knife that doesn't hit its mark as the Fade disappears back into the shadows. A split second later, the Fade lunges out from the shadows below them. This is a hallmark of Fades. They travel in the shadows and are supernaturally fast. Tom is able to briefly hold back the Fade, while the boys run away, and in the fight we see that it is the Fade's sword that is covered in blood. The Fade killed the farmer household, and not Matt. Phew! Carini and Liandrin are shielding Logain. Liandrin insists that shielding him is a waste of their energy, and suggests that should he break out, they could gentle him within the bounds of the 3 oaths. Carini is disgusted at the suggestion, and declares that they will do what is right, not what is easy. Nynaeve has followed Lan into the woods, and witnesses him performing a quiet ritual. Lan is from Malkia, a place he tells her has been lost. She shows her support by offering her own prayer in the old tongue. She tells him that this is the last thing she heard from her parents, who died in an attack on her village, but that she doesn't know what it means. Lan tells her it was the same line the king of Manetheren said to his queen before that fateful final battle. "We shall go into the land, so our children can always hold us and will never be alone." Nynaeve is overcome with emotion. Although she told Egwene in episode 1 that women are always alone and never alone. As a wisdom, she's never felt that balance. It's a beautiful tender moment between them, which is broken by shouting in the distance. It looks like Loghain's army is here to rescue him. A hail of arrows comes to the middle of the camp, but they are easily stopped in midair by Alanna. Inside the cave, Liandrin dismisses the threat. No army can get past 7 sisters outside. In response, Loghain simply opens his eyes. The shield holding him is completely destroyed and the 2 sisters are sent flying as well. This guy was holding back the whole time, and even now it doesn't look like he's under any strain. We see even the King of Gelden himself rallying Loghain's supporters, and they rush into the camp. Alanna can now drop the arrows she's been holding back. Bound by the 3 oaths, she can only use the 1 power as a weapon when she feels threatened. The battle is on, with both Loghain's supporters and the sisters and warders now fighting their way to Loghain's cave. This is a gritty forest skirmish, with sisters exploding the earth and sending people flying through the air. The warders are doing some fighting too, but it's clear the sisters are the heavy lifters. Poor Nynaeve is caught in the middle, but takes out her belt knife to defend herself. Back in the cave, Loghain simply gets to his feet as the cage around him melts away. There's no hand movements here, like we see when the Aes Sedai channel, just the merest roll of his head to acknowledge the sheer amount of power that he must be directing. A lone figure approaches. It's Moiraine, asking him why she should believe he is the Dragon Reborn. He admits to hearing voices when he channels, and claims that they must be the voices of the past lives he's led as the dragon. Seeing her sister stirring, Moiraine tells her the voices in his head are the signs of madness, and that while he is strong, it is nothing compared to the raging sun that will be the true Dragon Reborn. Corrini sends him flying back in an unexpected blast. That's payback for the one he just gave her. But he quickly gets to his feet and is able to fight against the shield that the 3 are trying to place on him. He sends out 3 shards in retaliation, and Corrini instinctively throws a protective barrier in front of Moiraine and Liandrin, but it doesn't cover herself and she falls. Outside, her warder stops mid-fight. He has felt Corrini's fatal injury in real time. Alanna says she and her warders will be able to hold back the rest of the army. But this is no last stand nonsense. She fully expects to survive and win. Nynaeve follows the rest of the Aes Sedai and warders into Loghain's cave. In the cave, Moiraine and Liandrin appear to be using all their strength in their attempt to shield Loghain, and he's finally starting to look a little strained fighting against it. When Corrini's warder sees her fallen body, he lunges out at Loghain in a berserker rage. Loghain was clearly not using all his strength though, as he is able to channel some new weaves on top of holding back the attempted shield. He blocks the axes coming towards him and breaks them, sending them flying back out as shrapnel that takes out almost everyone in the room. Lan has sustained a mortal injury to his throat and is bleeding to death. Nynaeve runs over to Lan. Overcome with emotion, she refuses to accept that he is going to die. She screams in a burst of outrage and defiance, lighting the whole room, and everyone around her is healed. Loghain is stunned and acknowledges what he just saw, like a raging sun. He has no further time to react, as Liandrin calls upon her other sisters to link with her. With Corrini out of the picture, she takes matters into her own hands as judge, jury, and executioner. With the sisters linked, Loghain is no match for their combined synergistic strength, and he is gentled, permanently cut from the 1 power. He falls to the ground, a broken man who has now lost everything. Lan checks his throat in amazement, and Moiraine looks over to Nynaeve in new recognition. For the 2nd time, we end an episode with Nynaeve. Is she the Dragon Reborn? Thanks for watching. If you liked my spoiler-free summary of this episode, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for future updates. And remember, yellows make the world a better place.